This is a bit long. Sorry in advance. I now see how easy it is when writing down your thoughts, as I always wondered why people wrote so much. So my wife, 45 female, and I, 50 male, have been married for almost 20 years. We have a 16-year-old daughter, and life has been pretty good. We've had our ups and downs like any marriage, but we worked together through it. We have even done marriage counseling a couple of times to get ourselves on the right track. When it comes to household chores, I've always cleaned the house, as I'm a bit OCD with cleaning due to growing up in a house with roaches as a kid. She takes care of the laundry, and we split making dinners on days I'm off as I work 12 hours a day, 4 days a week. Kiddo takes care of the dishes. So herein lies the issue. The wife is going through perimenopause. She's been super emotional and a bit unlike herself for the last 6 months or so. She is taking meds to help even out her hormones, but it's taking time. One day, she is overly nice, the next day complaining about every little thing and getting all bent out of shape. So yesterday morning was one of her bad days. I forgot to set up the coffee pot to make coffee in the morning. When I went down, she was all bent out of shape over it. I tried my normal tactic of apologizing, as I had a migraine and went to bed early and just forgot. Told her I would make coffee in a bit as I just woke up and needed a little bit to get the morning fog out of my head. Typical thing for me in the morning. She didn't like this answer, so as I went to sit on the couch, she threw her coffee cup at me, causing it to smash into my head, breaking and splitting my head open. At first, I was pissed that she actually threw something at me like what the heck, but then felt liquid going down my neck. I put my hand on it, pulled it back, thinking it was coffee, then saw the blood. Of course, at the sight of this, my wife suddenly freaked out, screamed at my daughter to get a towel, all while apologizing to me and crying, stating she was sorry. We headed to the ER and had our daughter drive as the wife couldn't as she was a hot mess. Luckily, it wasn't so deep that it needed stitches. The thing is, I had a rough home life as a child. I was physically abused by my mom all the way up until I left at 18. My wife knows this, and when she did what she did, it brought back all those memories so long ago forgotten. I love my wife, but I swore to myself that I would never be in a place where I'd be abused ever again. And now, I don't know if I would be the jerk if I file for divorce because of this. I know her hormones are partially to blame, but also know she's an adult and responsible for her actions. I guess I'm just looking for advice, wondering if I will be the asshole if I decide to leave. Maybe I just needed to vent a little too. The poster provided an update. First, I want to thank everyone for your responses. When I first posted, I thought I would get just a few replies. Obviously, I got way more than a few and was just overwhelmed by the sheer volume of comments. So I never replied, but I did my best to read them all. However, working 12-hour days doesn't leave me much free time. So before the update, I figured I'd answer some questions that everyone asked. My daughter and I are safe, so thank you again for your worries and concerns. My wife has never had anger issues or thrown stuff ever. Not to say she hasn't yelled or lost her temper, which is normal, as we all do. However, she does have depression and anxiety and takes meds for those as well. Sorry if my post made it seem like I was making excuses for her. I was and am not. She's an adult and responsible for her actions. Also, some people mentioned I gave pointless info in the first few paragraphs. I figured it was best to point out that her actions weren't due to me being a lazy husband. Okay, on to update. So after posting here, I took some time to cool off as I clearly was still mad about the situation. I took my daughter and we went for a drive. We talked about this issue and asked her how she felt. Much like most of the responses here, we agreed that it would be a good idea to leave the house for a bit until her mom's mental issues have been resolved or meds adjusted. We headed back home and I asked my wife to come down so we could have a family meeting, as she'd been hiding in our bedroom since we came home from the hospital. She came down and clearly felt awful, looked like she hadn't stopped crying since the incident. We both hugged her and told her we loved her, but we needed to talk. I told her for at least this week and maybe next week We were going to stay at my sister's place. She could stay in the house as she works from home and can't go into the office. She started to cry again, so waited for her to compose herself and finished. I let her know what she did was abuse. I reminded her of my childhood and that although this was outside of her normal behavior, it has caused a rift in our marriage. But I was willing to give her this one-time pass. However, she has to go see her doctor like yesterday, tell her everything that happened and everything she was feeling, not to sugarcoat anything so that her doctor can get her the right meds so that this never happens again. As many of you mentioned, it would be dumb of me to throw away 20 years for a one-time mess up. Although it was a huge mess up, I think it's something we can work through. I told her that we need to set up an appointment with a marriage counselor again, that this is going to take work on both our parts to move forward. I also told her that if she ever did anything like that again, I would file for divorce and take our daughter with me. That her and my safety was my #1 priority. She apologized several times during the talk. She tried telling us that she's all messed up with her hormones and the meds, and she didn't mean to. That when she threw it, it was like as soon as it left her hands, she knew she fucked up. I let her know that we understand she's going through a lot, but her hormonal issues are never an excuse for acting out and intentionally throwing stuff at me. That she's an adult and she's responsible for her own actions. Blaming it on hormones or meds or other BS wasn't going to cut it. I did get a bit heated at this point. She at least acknowledged this and apologized again. So this is where we are at this point. We are at my sister's place now as I write this. Sorry again for the stupidly long post. Again, thank you all you internet strangers for taking the time to read and comment. It allowed me to vent and also get some clarity.